all here. This is a really exciting moment for us here in the city, and we hope an exciting moment for some partners that are joining us here. So just over a year ago here in Pittsburgh, we had, which many of you probably attended, the Summit for Urban Mobility and Design, which brought together 300 or more of some of the leading minds in city building, in mobility solutions. And something really telling happened to me there as the meeting was progressing. One of the participants that was in the breakout group with me said, after we had this long discussion about how do we connect people to opportunity and really knit our city back together, what is the city of the future, the city of tomorrow that we're building, talking about new forms of transit, new forms of bicycling, the importance of walking in cities. And it wasn't until that moment that one of the participants stood up and she said, I had no idea that this conference was about transportation. I was attending this conference that talked about urban mobility, and to me, as a community builder, as a city builder, mobility to me meant helping people get to a higher level, to help them get to a higher economic level, a higher social level, someplace else. That we were talking about upward mobility for economics, for societal change. And I thought, well, isn't that telling? Because when we talk about transportation, when we talk about making connections, we are talking about bringing people to that higher economic mobility level. And so this is what this new initiative, this new partnership, this effort that we're taking place in here is about, is really trying to solve those really difficult urban mobility challenges so that we can address not only the physical mobility, getting people from one place to another, but also solve the social and economic mobility challenges of our city. The mayor really has inspired us from the time that I've been here in really making this call of if it's not for all, it's not for us here in Pittsburgh. And that's a very special statement and something that we really take to heart. And this is really setting a great tone here for the partnership that we have with Ford. And so without further ado, I want to introduce John Kwan. He's the Vice President of City Solutions for Ford Smart Mobility, and really going to bring us forward in this partnership for the Ford City of Tomorrow Challenge. John?
Thank you, Karina. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. It's great to be here along with our partners, Dell and Microsoft. Importantly, the City of Pittsburgh, to introduce the City of Tomorrow Challenge program. Ford was founded on the belief that freedom of movement drives human progress. It's a belief that's always fueled our passion to create great products, to work with the best partners, and envision and create the right solutions for cities and the people who reside in them. The City of Tomorrow is Ford's vision of the future, one that comes to fruition by creating solutions that affect the way people live and move today, but also solve for the way that people will live and move throughout the world 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now and beyond. Over 100 years ago, the automobile was the ultimate disruptor to human life. It gave people extraordinary freedom to travel great distances and to get around like never before. And the system had great promises since its inception, providing people better access to resources. Over time, as our cities began to be designed around automobiles instead of people, the roads overtook the towns, cities, and community centers. And today, we see that especially in many people's daily commutes. Time we used to spend with each other is now time spent in congestion and traffic. The price for our freedom to move was the creation of a world where roads that were built for cars replaced streets that were intended for living. Now we're entering an era of disruption, an era of change in transportation. Technology is transforming life in our cities, making it possible to share resources in ways we never could before. Not just information, but food, jobs, rides, rooms, and much more. To prepare for and thrive in the coming years, we must fundamentally update our approach and shift our central mission to harness technologies to restore a genuine sense of community, and specifically in Pittsburgh, what I think you guys refer to as neighborliness. And it's a new word for me, and I'm going to use this more often. Companies everywhere talk a lot about mobility, connectivity, and working with cities. At Ford, we've been working on this for a long time, and we're committed to collaborating very closely with cities to ensure that we're providing mobility solutions that will benefit communities and improve the way their citizens move around. That's why we created this challenge, the City of Tomorrow Challenge. This is a new program focused on engaging communities around mobility issues that they care about most. The challenge creates an opportunity to propose ideas for how data, technology, and design might answer a central question, like how might we design communities in Pittsburgh that are seamless, welcoming, and intuitive. Throughout the 8-month program, residents, businesses, community organizations are invited to share how they experience transportation in Pittsburgh and how mobility either enables their lives or serves as a barrier. By working directly with communities to identify and propose new mobility designs and innovations, our goal is to find areas where we can create immediate impact for residents and support long-term improvements for the city. But it's not just about talking about problems. We're going to back this up. We put money behind the good ideas with potential. During the program's concluding stage, $100,000 will be awarded to fund pilots that test the top ideas in real-world settings. The City of Tomorrow Challenge is a new approach for Ford and our partners to engage with cities. It's part of our growing portfolio of mobility solutions, which includes shared use services like microtransit. We're focused on bringing together our vehicles and technology expertise, as well as those of our external suppliers and partners, to create real human-centered solutions to mobility challenges. The City of Pittsburgh shares our belief that it takes a continuous effort to develop more accessible, sustainable, and equitable cities. It understands how important mobility is to the fabric of their city, connecting to their people to their jobs, education, economic opportunity, and each other. Of course, having a strong sense of community and neighborliness is dependent on having access to those neighbors, over the hills, across the 3 rivers, over the multiple bridges. As Pittsburgh transforms itself into a city of tomorrow, the community's ideas and mobility solutions can help the city reinforce its core values. That's what the City of Tomorrow Challenge is all about. We and our partners are working very closely with Pittsburgh to really understand what makes a difference here. It's not just about having the best technology to enable transportation, it's about research, being on the ground, community engagement, innovation, and holding ourselves accountable for the end user experience. And in this case, it's also about having the community take part in identifying solutions that will help them move throughout the city in which they live. On behalf of Ford Motor Company, our challenge partners, and the very passionate team of people who have created this challenge, it has been an honor to work with people like Mayor Peduto, Director Karina Ricks, the City of Pittsburgh team, and community members and our partners as we build this program out and partner to create solutions that address some of the city's most important and challenging mobility issues together. Thank you. Karina.
So again, I hope that this is something that we will really find some new innovation through. We'll be able to empower our own residents to bring their own voice, their own solutions, and really use the global intelligence that Ford brings to this initiative to help expand the talent and the expertise and the local knowledge of our own residents. And now I have the very distinct pleasure of introducing Mayor Bill Peduto. Mayor Peduto brought me to the city just over a year ago. I couldn't be happier to be here in this moment of time as we're really innovating in this world-class city that we have here, finding ways to really bring our communities together, expand the opportunity for all residents. And I think that Mayor Peduto has been a phenomenal leader, and he inspires our team every day. And so I want to invite the mayor up.
Thank you, Director. You know, when we came into this about 5 years ago, we were still using our Department of Public Works to try to put together both the challenges of what the city has, which is the double black diamond of roads and a network of transportation, together with the cutting edge technology of tomorrow that was coming out of places like the University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon University. And we realized pretty quickly that we didn't have the capacity to do it, and we were going to have to create a new department in order to be able to, number one, fix infrastructure that had been left behind, and number two, utilize technology in a way that we never had before. So we created the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and anyone that knows me knows that I love hockey, and a lot of times I'll tie hockey into things, and yes, it did have a lot to do with Ty Domi. So that is why it became Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. But Karina was the perfect person for that fit. Somebody who in Washington, D.C. was able to update Washington, D.C.'s transportation network, and somebody who as a consultant was able to work with companies on a global basis and cities on a global basis of understanding technology. During the Smart City Challenge, we had the opportunity to work directly with Ford. And Ford Motor Company provided an incredible parallel to Pittsburgh. Number one, it understood the changes that were coming and it embraced them. It saw that the idea of 2 cars in a garage is not a formula that will allow it to survive in countries around the world and eventually in the United States as well. And from a motor company, they looked to become a mobility company, looking at the next 100 years and where Ford would be in 100 years. But the important part and why this partnership makes so much sense is 100 years in the past. Ford understands the importance of people, and people not only within their workforce, which they have a tremendous record, but people that they serve and what their role is in creating a better society. It has a great lesson to teach Silicon Valley as it becomes a leader in technology with mobility, because Ford puts people at the center. If you look at Chariot, their operations of providing transit for people to get to a workplace, it's basically like a school bus for adults. You know, everybody types in where they live, where they're going, and then technology allows for one carrier to pick you up and take you to work on a daily basis with your neighbors. Chariot is not accessible to 10% of the population or 1%. It's accessible to 100%. Every vehicle is designed so that people with needs have the ability to use the system. Chariot can be used on your cell phone or on a landline if you don't have a cell phone. And if you don't have credit in order to have an app, you can use cash. They think it out at the beginning of the process in order to make accessibility there for all. And as we move to rideshare and other types of transportation, those same lessons can only be learned in places like Pittsburgh and Detroit, places that had to go through the hard lessons of the past in order to understand how people have to be at the center of it. So when we create this partnership with Ford, and I have to thank the Heinz Endowments, the Benter Foundation, the Pittsburgh Foundation, and the Parking Authority for partnering with us in order to be able to see this happen in Pittsburgh. As we look at this partnership with Ford, we want to find out where there are areas in our city that are transportation deserts. We know that nearly 40% of city residents don't have a car. With those 40%, how are they able to get to the doctor? How are they able to get to food? What are the places and what do we need to do to enhance opportunity for them? We know that the majority of people who work downtown do not drive to work. The majority of people who work downtown don't drive to work. What are the options that we're providing? What are the multimodal options? And what can we do to enhance them so that other people won't have to rely on a car in order to get downtown, and downtown won't have to be congested? And then utilizing technology and partnering with the companies that are here and the research that's being done here to make transportation even more effective, efficient, and equitable. Those are our key goals. And in doing so, we'll be creating industries that will be able to create jobs on a global basis. We have already created the smartest traffic signalization in the world, and that technology is already being used now around this country and around the world. Now we want to go to the next generation, where those traffic signals that talk to each other are able to talk to sensors, are able to talk to the vehicles, and that seamless transportation systems are created right here in Pittsburgh. And jobs and industry are being created here as well. Pittsburgh and Detroit have a very shared history, of how work evolved during the Second Industrial Revolution. It's an honor to be able to welcome Ford to Pittsburgh, to be able to make sure that that leadership of Pittsburgh and Detroit is a part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
I'm going to give a little bit of foreshadowing of what this whole initiative is going to do. So the level of public engagement that this will encompass goes very, very broad, using technology, using different ways of engagement that way, going to different community events and really engaging people face to face, as well as going very deep with personal stories about what it really means to move around this area. And I'll give you a little bit of insight. Shortly after I came here to the city, I was meeting with a gentleman that lives in our Homewood community, and he was telling me the story of his son who had just graduated from apparently a credible university called Carnegie Mellon here in the city, and he got the job of his dreams out in Cranberry. And he said his son came back from the interview was downtown, he was awarded the job site was at an office out there, and he came back to his father and he said, wow, this was really great, they offered me the job, unfortunately I have to turn it down. And his dad's like, what are you talking about, you have to turn it down? He said, well, I don't have a car, how am I gonna get out to Cranberry? That should never, ever, ever be the case for our residents. We need to problem solve around that. I don't have the answer, and that's why we're doing an initiative like this. The destinations are not all downtown. They're not all to Oakland. They're not all to the Strip District. People are going for critical employment to Robinson Town Center and to South Point and to Cranberry. These are places that's very difficult to get to if you're transit dependent, even more difficult to get to if you have a mobility impairment. How are we going to make sure that every single resident of our city can thrive, that this is the place that they want to live because we have unrivaled quality of life, because we have a mayor who's going to give us age 3 through adult education, where we have just a really tremendous community sense here that this is the place you want to live, even if your place of employment is elsewhere in our region. We need to provide for each and every resident regardless of their ability, and this is some of the kind of needs that we need to surface. We need every member to feel valued, that when they take transit, they don't feel like a second-class citizen, they feel like a respected and dignified person who is using this transportation service in a quality way, quality waiting facilities, good information so that they can travel plan. So this is really daylighting those stories, daylighting those very real world problems that our residents face is part of this effort, and then really using the intelligence, the innovation, the creativity of our own innovators here, whether they're professional innovators or novice innovators, but to bring those solution sets forward, and with the mentorship and leadership of Ford, bring those forward to actual actionable solutions, which then, I don't think anyone talked about the $100,000 that will help stand up these innovations and demonstrate them and pilot them right here in our own city, and perhaps if they work, take them globally as a solution set across the world. Microphone. So the Port Authority, there's almost too many partners in this initiative to mention, but I do need to call out the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, who's filling a critical role for us here in really helping to be this sort of allowing these different funding sources to come together and do that. And the Port Authority is another critical partner in this, and so they also are right there hand in glove with us in moving this initiative forward. We also intend to invite many of our other stakeholder groups who've been a part of this, Age Friendly Pittsburgh, Bike Pittsburgh. Now I'm starting to name people, which only means you leave people out, so I'll stop there. But the Port Authority is one of the cornerstone elements because transit is the backbone of mobility in any major city.
So I think when we've done this in other places, we're not trying to be prescriptive or even know what's going to come out. I think what you'll hear, especially in the community engagement workshops, is what are the unique challenges that people have, either with the transit options they have or connecting to transit. You know, sometimes it's not the system itself, it's how can I even get there, right? Where are there potential gaps? What are ideas? How do we augment it with bike share, with microtransit and other things? So it could be a variety of things. It could be not issues of community, it could be issues of getting their kids to school. It could be after-school programs. And as the mayor spoke to, it could be a revelation of where there's gaps in food and healthcare and, you know, other forms of what we would call deserts, you know, within the city. So we are open. I think every city is unique in this regard, and we look forward to hearing from the citizens of Pittsburgh.
I would just add, you know, it's a very interesting time for transportation in urban centers, and rideshare, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, connected vehicles are all coming together. And within the next few years, all the major automobile manufacturers will be incorporating those technologies into the automobiles that they sell. Well, we have the opportunity to be ahead of the game, working directly with a major automobile manufacturer and understanding the needs of people as opposed to what the technology is available, and trying to address the people's needs through the technology. So this is a great partnership that we have, and we have the ability to open this city up as we have in the past, and to be able to actually get pilots running within the next year. And Ford is willing to put $100,000 behind those pilots. And I'm sure that we'll be able to find, through our foundation community, funds to be able to match those, or through city government funds to be able to even take that further. Our goal is very simple. We want to be on the cutting edge of transportation in the 21st century, and we want to partner with companies like Ford that have a record of understanding a people-first process in that.
Both Karina and John talked about bikes, and since you're our bike mayor, could you talk a little bit more about how you think bicycles are going to feature into the City of Tomorrow?
Yeah, I think the official title's Bike Lane Billy, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
That was before me.
Pretty sure, at least on Twitter.
On a good day.
It's a part of a multimodal system. So it's the first mile, last mile for some people. It's the primary mode of transportation for others. It is the network that is built out on a north, south, east, west basis. And we've given ourselves 8 years to build out our system. And it connects directly with the automobile transportation, with the public transit, with pedestrian, and with people with needs. You can't design a city any longer just for an automobile. There isn't any city in the world that is being designed strictly for an automobile. And every city that is being designed for the future not only includes bikes, but all modes of transportation, even those with needs and their accessibility as well.
I just want to, it's an important, I want to just sort of drop some statistics on you of why we need to talk about these non-motorized solutions in addition to motorized solutions. So nationally, we have about 40% of the household trips that are made in the United States are trips that are less than a mile distant. Unfortunately, 60% of those trips are driven in an automobile, so for a mile. It takes walking, you can cover about half a mile walking. On a bicycle, you can cover 1.5 miles to 2 miles in 10 minutes. So what we really want to do is promote the options to take those very short distance trips, so trips less than 1 mile, and make the ability to get those trips accomplished by non-motorized means. And I'm telling you, I will hold it to the mayor that if we can eliminate very short distance trips being taken by automobile, I will solve traffic congestion, including the tunnels in Pittsburgh, if we can get those very short distance trips taken by alternative modes. Now the question is, how do we make it safe and inviting for people to take those alternative modes? My parents are 75. They still bicycle, but they won't bicycle in Pittsburgh. Why? Because our streets are a little bit hostile, a little bit dangerous, and a little bit threatening for them to take what would otherwise be an enjoyable mode of travel. So we need to figure that out. We need to improve our city to make it an all ages, all abilities option to walk and bicycle, so that we really can address the fundamental traffic congestion problems, so that those longer distance trips can be efficiently and reliably made by motorized transport. But this is all, we're getting off topic on this, but bicycling will be part of the solution, and really thinking about how do we do that? How do we help people find those comfortable routes? How do we make it an option so that we can get to this goal of short distance trips being made by modes other than single occupancy vehicle travel?
Mr. Vaughn, if you could address help us understand what Ford's sort of motivation is. This profit effort with the whole Ford's doing something they want to sell cars. It's about selling cars. What drives Ford's doing here? What practical outcome would come for Ford?
Sure. I think for us, and the mayor alluded to this, it's recognition that as cities continue to grow, the congestion problem that they're experiencing now becomes more acute. It's not just here in Pittsburgh, and I think a lot of what contributes here are just the choke points that you guys having to cross rivers, use tunnels and things. But if you look at Beijing, the answer to a growing city there is not yet another ring road around the city. It just adds carrying capacity. What we're trying to do is create carrying capacity from the existing system. So when Karina talks about utilizing a bike for that last mile instead of a car, if you remove that car from having to go out, create its occupied space on the road, as well as any parking spaces that it occupies, you've in essence open carrying capacity, and more people can use it. When we encourage shared use through shuttles and public transit, we're hopefully getting people out of single occupancy vehicles and creating that carrying capacity within a city. For Ford, recognizing that the mobility paradigm is changing, it's investing in things like shared use, like we've done with Chariot. It is looking toward an autonomous future, and in a city like Pittsburgh, where you have so much innovation going on in this space, including with our partners Argo, you can envision a future that's connected and automated. And in order to do that, we have to rethink how the vessels, the carriages that we've made for over 100 years evolve to that. So Ford has always been in the business of moving people and goods. And until we invent a form of Star Trek-like teleportation, we're going to have to physically move people and goods. That will change in the future. Those carriages will change in the future in terms of what they're carrying and how they're carrying is connected. And that's what we intend to be part of as this future evolves.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned pilots. So I understand you gather the information. Can you give us an example of what these pilots are?
I think that is still a blank page. To quote Henry Ford, if I would have given people what they wanted, I'd have made faster horses. The ideas that will be coming from the community will be shaped over the course of these next several months. They'll be tested to find where transportation options are limited. They'll be looked at, and then the best ideas will be funded. This is a community process. It will allow people to come up with the ideas that they see are needed within Pittsburgh, and they will be given the expertise by local experts to be able to help to shape them. But to specify right now what a pilot would look like, I don't think that we have really an idea.
Yeah. I can give you an example of something that came out of the Detroit process, just so you have a kind of an example of what it looks like. There, many places the bus stops aren't clearly marked. So we're actually, getting back to the earlier question, is this potentially philanthropic? It could be, because what we're working with the city now is to install what we call smart bus benches, where they've got a solar panel on it, you can charge, there's a local area network there, and the bus stop is clearly demarcated, so people know that this is where the bus is going to stop. It's not just a sign, and it may or may not stop there, and it actually provides a place to actually get some things done. You can recharge your phone, you can connect to the internet. There's also sensors on the bench for public safety to gauge microclimate. So these are things that come out of the challenge, that the city itself would not have known that this was a real hard point or pain point for commuters. And so things like that are what we've seen come out of challenges in the past. Just a small example.
So you're rolling this out nationwide. Is this the second stop to roll it out the City of Tomorrow?
So this is the first stop under the City of Tomorrow banner. We've piloted both in Detroit, New York. We've got 2 more cities we'll be announcing over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Pittsburgh's the first stop on the Triple Crown here. That's right. Kentucky Derby of challenges.
The process.
One question over here.
Okay, sorry.
I was going to ask, can you tell us a little bit more about the timeline? So does this 18-month process start now?
Yeah, that was great. I was just going to jump in and explain. So the process is, yes, it's an 8-month timeline starting now. So this first phase, I think you've all been shared, or we will share with you, the website that I think launches today. Yes, we're getting the website launches today to begin collecting information. We'll also be going out in person to big events in partnership with the PDP and others, the major events downtown, as well as in the communities, so your 4th of July festival or whatever else is happening in the neighborhood level, through this, what we're calling the explore phase. And this is where we're really gathering those stories of your journeys, right? So how can we really understand what the challenges are that are facing us if we're not really hearing the personal kind of experiences of our people? So if I'm a person with a disability, my challenge may be that I can't regulate my body temperature that well, and I need to find those pathways that have great shaded tree cover. And that would increase my mobility if I can travel in areas that are shaded. It may be that I don't know where to get, I don't actually know how to use the bus, and this is a big obstacle for me in using our transit system, because I don't want to, look like an idiot as I'm using the bus, and so I need that kind of coaching to understand how to use the mobility services that are here already. But hearing those kinds of stories from individuals telling us what are those obstacles that they encounter, and really being able to use the systems that we already have in place, where are the gaps that the systems that we have are just not satisfying them, where are the obstacles to accessing that opportunity, or to visiting friends, or to achieving the level of delight even in travel that we'd like them to have. And so we'll be gathering that through this explore phase. The next phase that will commence in just a few short weeks will help to refine that information that we've gotten through the explore and data gathering analytics that we're doing here, to really winnow that down to a set of challenges that are unique to Pittsburgh. It's not what is the challenge that Detroit or Los Angeles or some other place is experiencing. What is unique to Pittsburgh that would really help our residents achieve the goals that they want? And so we'll winnow that down to an actual challenge statement that might say, how might we achieve some other goal that we have? And so really focusing those energies around a particular challenge statement. And so with the community, we'll co-create what those solutions might be, and then issue the challenge to the innovators in our own community of how can we satisfy that? What are those tools? What are those services? What are those innovations that can be brought forward that can address these very real, very tangible challenges that hold our cities back, our community back from achieving what our residents want? And then through the sort of mentorship and coaching and advice and help of the different partners that Ford has brought together in service to our city, help to refine those options down to perhaps 1 or 2 that we can then stand up and actually demonstrate and measure and put into real time really by November of this year. That's the other great thing about partnering with the private sector. This is something that would take us in the city 2 years of study and pardon me, navel gazing to do to really bring forward, but in partnership with the public sector, I'm sorry, with the private sector, we can accelerate this much more quickly, really learn as we do, and refine that in real time and bring these solutions forward for our residents. And so this is a really exciting partnership. We're so, I can't tell you how pleased we are to be sort of the inaugural city that Ford is bringing this program to. And we expect that this is something that will be the envy of many other cities around the country.
Just want to add one thing to that. Again, the partnership, the public-private partnership with Ford is not possible without the public-public partnership with our foundation community. When Ford reached out to us to host this initiative, Director Ricks was not only enthused about it, but was insistent that this get pushed to the top of the list with our requests to our foundation partners. And it was only through their own enthusiasm of being able to create this public-private partnership that this is able to happen. Without them, there really isn't the type of money sitting around in an account in city government to be able to afford this partnership and to be able to make it something that will have tangible results.
So, what sorts of Pittsburghers do you look for to hear from this whole process? Like anyone,
Everyone.
citizen or student, are you looking for entrepreneurs, all of the above?
Everyone. This is about the real Pittsburgh. This is the real people that we want to hear from. I want to hear from the grandmothers that aren't able to go and visit their grandchildren because they, are no longer able to drive and have to wait until a family member comes to get them. I want to hear from the 15-year-olds who are wondering how they're going to get their first or second job and how they're going to get to the places. We want to hear from my own cohort and others who are families with children who maybe feel that it's necessary for us to have sort of this $9,000 a year private vehicle debt that we carry in order to get to the places that we want to go. This is a solution for real Pittsburgh, the real people that are here living it from every economic class, from every age, from every neighborhood in our 90 neighborhoods of our city, so that we can really understand the solutions that serve us and the needs that real Pittsburghers have.
So who gets the grants? How do you get from that sort of community-rooted individual concerns to ideas of grants?
Right. So the neighbors, our own neighbors will define the challenge. They'll help us daylight what are those things that are holding us back? What are those things that are limiting them reaching their own best self in our city? And then it's really looking out to the innovators, not only in our own city. I don't believe that this is limited to Pittsburgh homegrown solutions only, although of course the mayor has a strong bias, and I'll carry that bias into this process with us to encourage our own innovators, but really bringing whatever those solutions are that exist anywhere in the world to address these uniquely defined challenges here in Pittsburgh. And that will be what the challenge process is. That will be a competition of sorts that will bring those ideas here. The selection will be done by our own residents with our own input of really looking and seeing, is this the innovation, is this the solution that's going to address and be useful for this unique challenge that we have here. Did you want to add more?
Yeah, the way that I describe this is that consider it crowdsourcing in 2 stages. Crowdsourcing of ideas within the community to determine what the issues and the challenges are, and then crowdsourcing of solutions to meet those challenges. And that's as we've seen, when you crowdsource either supply and/or demand, a lot of things can happen because of the network effect that ensues. So we're looking for great ideas within the city, and we're looking for great solutions once you've opened up those challenges to a global community.
What kind of foundation support is that you have?
Want to give the numbers?
Yeah, so the Heinz Foundation has committed $100,000 to this effort. The Benter Foundation was very generous in giving us a $50,000 grant, and then the Pittsburgh Foundation brought forward $25,000. I should also call out that the Parking Authority has contributed to this effort, as well as the Department of City Planning and the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. So this is really a cross-cutting initiative where many different agencies and many different perspectives see value in really investing in the kind of learning about our own city, forming our own future that will inform the work of these different departments.
So above that, we're working, there's another 200,000.
There's 250,000 that we're bringing forward in local resources. Ford has I think not put a dollar amount on the contribution that they and their partners are bringing forward. I've said, having been a consultant myself, that to do this, if we were to issue a RFP to do this to a consultant, we would be looking at somewhere between $1 and $2 million to do an effort of this level. So we think that this is a fair local contribution for the value that we anticipate being returned. And bear in mind that of that $250,000 local portion, $100,000 of that is set aside for the actual stand-up of the pilot that will be in service to our residents here in Pittsburgh. The rest is to do the various kinds of data. This is a very deep data dive that we're doing, extensive community engagement. So there's a lot of on-the-ground work that will be happening with this in order to bring that information together. There's quite a bit of quantitative analysis that's going into this, as well as the qualitative data gathering from the broad community input, refining that down, synthesizing that down to a challenge set. So there is quite a lot of work that's going into this. This will also inform the creation of a transportation vision plan and the transportation element of our comprehensive plan.
So just so I'm clear, 250,000 from local and 100,000 from boards?
No, 250,000 in local, of which 100,000 is set aside for the seed money for the pilot demonstration.
Excuse me. Our contribution, as well as our partners' contribution, are syndicated to support not only the Pittsburgh Challenge, but the others. So the platform, the website, you'll see when you go there, Pittsburgh will have a place, and the other cities where we're launching this will have a place. So the partners, if you will, including Ford, are supporting these challenges in the other cities as well, and leveraging some of the backbone here, as well as helping in the facilitation with the cities.
So Ford's not getting a grant.
I would say we have our time and our contributions collectively are helping the cities launch these. But the funding for the prize moving forward are coming from local foundations and cities.